Winter 2023 to 2024 was mild for all and wet for many. It's meteorologist Joe Martucci here. We just wrapped up climatological winter, our 3 coldest months of the year, December, January, and February. So let's take a look at how we did across the Northeast. You see a lot of these warm colors here on the map, and it was a mild one. You see those areas in yellow, 1, 2, 3 degrees above average, but over 5 degrees above average for most of upstate New York, as well as western and even central Pennsylvania. It was the second warmest winter on record for Buffalo, as well as Glens Falls and Harrisburg as well. You got closer to the Atlantic Ocean, a little bit more moderate, but still above average. It was the 10th warmest in the Atlantic City area. Precipitation was generally wetter, whether it was melted snow or rain, the further east you were, generally east of the Appalachian Mountains, which you can see in an El Nino winter like the one we just had. We take a look at the specifics here, and you see it was the 4th wettest in the Atlantic City area in 91 years of record keeping, and pretty near the top to the records in Glens Falls and Harrisburg. Once you got to Buffalo and even places like Pittsburgh, a little closer to the average, and around Erie, Pennsylvania, it was actually below average for December, January, and February. Now, snowfall was below average pretty much everywhere in the Northeast. But if you were in New Jersey or New York City, Eastern Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Maryland, it was more than what you saw last winter, which was next to nothing. It was record low or near record low there last winter. Comparing this to our winter forecast that we had on our Across the Sky podcast, I think the temperatures ended up pretty good here. It was a mild start. December was the first or second warmest in most Northeast cities. Then as we got towards February, we were getting closer to the average. We never really ended up at average. It was still warmer than normal, but the general trend was still there. Now we'll see what March brings, but the first half of the month does look to be well above the average. This is all because we had an El Nino, and an El Nino has to do with how warm or cold the waters are off the equatorial Pacific Ocean. Normally, trade winds, which blow east to west, push that warmer than average temperature body of water closer to the Australia area as well as Asia. However, in an El Nino, those trade winds weaken, and that warm blob of water goes closer to South America. What this does is drive a strong subtropical jet stream. Jet stream is a river of air about 30,000 feet high that separate two air masses and is also considered the storm track. Those red arrows show the subtropical jet and typically is wetter than average in the southern tier of the United States and can even ride up the East Coast, which is what happened this winter here. Now, we take a look at our final notes. It was a top 25 winter for everywhere in the Northeast and in a top 5 for many of us. December was the most above average. However, January and February still above normal, just not as much so. And in terms of snow, it was below average, but for a number of us, as you got towards the mid-Atlantic, it was more than what we saw last winter, which was next to nothing. If you want something to do this weekend, you can check out our Across the Sky podcast. New episodes come out every Monday. This past Monday, we just dropped an episode for you about the record low Great Lakes sea ice coverage. That has something to do with how warm it was this winter. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts.